Hey guys, it's Ashley aka Sparky and welcome to another edition of Sparky Loves Books BookTube. Today I'm going to be talking about my book boyfriends, or my favorite male characters. And these are in no particular order. These are just the hodgepodge of book boyfriends that I have collected over all the years of reading. The first one, which will make my best friend very, very happy, is Jamie Fraser from the Outlander series. To be quite honest, I first fell in love with him from watching the television show, and then I was absolutely hooked, especially because of Jamie. So I started reading the series and I got through the first two. They're huge books, so they're very daunting, but it's super worth it because they are rich and packed full of interesting things, but I digress. Jamie Fraser is amazing. He is a wonderful male lead. He's a very strong character. He is not afraid to defend and protect those that he loves. This especially goes for Claire, which I find absolutely swoon-worthy, and he is just so hunky. He's just like, he's kind of older and he's very masculine, and I just adore the way that he loves Claire, and I can't get enough of him and his Scottish chivalry. Or maybe it's the kilts. Or maybe it's a little bit of both. Next we have Eric Northman from the Sookie Stackhouse series by Charlaine Harris. He also is pretty hunky on the TV show True Blood that used to be on HBO. Yeah, he's kind of an Achilles heel for me. He's just so tall and Viking-like and just wonderful. But in the books, he is very good at wooing and charming Sookie and various other characters, male and female, and he just is very authoritative and demanding, and for some reason I find that incredibly attractive. I don't find it attractive in all of the male characters, but especially in Eric Northman because he's just so old and has seen so much, and is also just really good with his words and his hands, it would seem. So I just can't help but get all, you know, tingly and spoony whenever I read his parts or watch his dialogue on the show. Especially adore the part where, spoiler alert, he loses his memory and falls for Sookie, and that's where their relationship really starts. I really wanted them to be endgame in the series, and I was rooting for them. I won't tell you how the series ends in the book series in case you haven't read it yet, but just know that they are my ship as far as the Sookie Stackhouse series goes. Next is Adam Wilde from If I Stay and Where She Went by Gail Forman. Really, I love Adam Wilde because I think that he was one of the first fictional guys that I really thought was both realistic, like I could see him in real life and kind of see him as a person in real life happening. He wasn't over the top fictional and unrealistic, and also he just really is one of the first ones to kind of be more of an adult fictional crush for me. I read If I Stay, oh my gosh, probably about 7 years ago now, and that was when I first fell in love with him, and I really think that he is the one that pushed me away from like my sort of teeny bopper crushes like on Gilbert Blythe from Anne of Green Gables and those sort of like young girl crushes. So I think he just kind of holds a weird like young adult boyfriend place in my heart. He's just very articulate and very emotional, and he's in a band. I mean, come on. Like, he plays the guitar and he plays it well, and his band is super successful, and he's from Oregon, so I kind of wish he was real so that I could meet him in real life and run away to Oregon with him. Whoops. Next is Rafi from the Pennon and the End of Days series. I could not have a book boyfriend list without putting Rafi on here. He is absolutely like the top 3 book boyfriends of all time. He is super sarcastic and always has a quick comeback ready. Pushes Penryn to her absolute wit's end, and I find that just so, like, not charming, but I just want more of it, and I just think it's hilarious and wonderful. He's not sarcastic to her in a way that demeans her or is mean. He's like almost happy sarcastic to her, and I really like that sense of humor. And also he's super full of himself, which is usually a turn off, but because he's fictional and not in real life, I don't have to worry about his ego. because it can be tamed because his story is fully fleshed out. So I kind of think that his big head is kind of attractive, but he's also apparently very good to look at, and he's an angel, so I mean that's just the, you know, tip of the iceberg there. How can you not be in love with a sarcastic, witty, hunky angel? I mean, you have to be in love with him, basically. Next is Roger Sullivan from Amy and Roger's Epic Detour by Morgan Matson, which is kind of a weird one. I don't think anybody else that I know of has Roger Sullivan on their book boyfriend list, but something about him is really adorable. I like the way that he guides Amy, and he sort of is very patient and tender with her as she attempts to open up and really come to terms with everything that happened with her and her father, and he really helps her with, you know, being okay with driving a car again and being comfortable in her own skin again and not being shy of everybody. And he also reconnects her with her family, which is so important. So he's just such a sweetheart, and he's such a history nerd. It's so cute. I just like how much he likes history, and for some reason I just find that super adorable. And also he apparently has very good taste in music, which is pretty awesome. So yeah, he is pretty high also on the list for me, probably also top 3 for me at least. So if you haven't read Amy and Roger's Epic Detour by Morgan Matson, I highly recommend it. It's an especially good YA summer read. It's a young adult contemporary novel, and it's a really good like wanderlust road trip books. There's not very many very good ones out there, especially for young adults, so I highly recommend it, not only for Roger Sullivan, but also because it's just a great book. Next is Oscar from I'll Give You the Sun by Jandy Nelson, and he's just a quick mention because I just really like his one-liners that he uses on Jude in the book. I found that whole thing with his mom and the photograph that Jude took of him, and how, like, that whole story about how his mom said that that was going to be the person he fell in love with. I just felt that was a very, like, mushy-gushy story. I kind of like that he was, like, a bad boy, but not quite a stereotypical bad boy. His backstory was a little bit different than what I was anticipating, so that was kind of a breath of fresh air. Yeah, when I was making this list, I was trying to think of guys that, like, I thought of frequently, like fictional boys that I thought of a lot, and Oscar definitely makes that list because, like, I don't know, I just think that he was a really great character, and he was a really great addition to an already amazing cast of characters in that novel. Next is Chaol Westfall from the Throne of Glass series, who might be #1 on this whole list, FYI. I am a huge fan of Kale. He is a precious cinnamon roll who needs to be protected at all costs, and I want nothing but great character development for him, which has been set back in the 4th novel, and I'm super upset about, but it is what it is. The book is already written. But I love him. I love the way that he's grown, the conclusions that he's come to about the world around him. I find him very brave and very interesting, and I really am invested in his story. He also is 100% dedicated to those closest to him, Dorian and Selena. I just find that not only, like, really attractive, but also just a very good personality trait to have in general. He is trustworthy, but he also kind of tries to do what's best for you at whatever cost to his own heart. As far as I've read, bear in mind, I've only read the first 3 books. I haven't read the 4th book, so yeah, maybe he has some different character traits in the 4th book. All I know is that apparently, even from the beginning of the 4th book, like, my ship sinks, and I am unhappy with that, and it's making me dread reading the 4th book, because if it's not happening, Kale and Selena, I am in denial and I don't want to read it, basically. I suppose I should get over that at some point, but yeah, I just really love Kale, and I think that he's probably a better person than we realize yet, and I think he's a better person than pretty much everybody else besides Nehemia in the Throne of Glass series. So yeah, he's definitely #1 for many reasons. Also, spoilers again, when him and Selena finally, like, are together, it's a very good relationship. It's very steamy, and they're my favorite parts of the book are the 2 of them together in the closet. You guys remember the closet scene? I do. Next is Ian O'Shea from The Host by Stephanie Meyer. And next to Roger Sullivan, he's probably the sweetest male character on this list. I think that he is such an amazing guy for the way he stands up for Wanda. I just especially like the way that he treats Wanda, and he very, very much cares for her and protects her at all costs, and has some really, really sweet, very loving lines that he gives to her that, like, should be said to girls in real life to make them feel loved. He is completely open and is not closed-minded. Like, he's open to changing his judgment about people and learning more and not basing things on first impressions. He really learns a lot over the course of the novel, and I think that is a great character attribute. He also is just really, really, really amazing sweetheart, and I just think it's super adorable, so he's pretty high on the list too. I will forever love Ian O'Shea, and I honestly can't stand Jared at all. I don't see the appeal in Jared from The Host. I don't know why anyone would like him over Ian. It makes absolutely no sense to me whatsoever. Next is Reyes Farrow from the Charlie Davidson series by Dorinda Jones, which will also make my best friend very, very happy. Reyes Farrow is a force to be reckoned with. A hell-sent demon. He's literally the son of Satan. He is strong, and he is scary, and he is tall, and he is foreboding and formidable, and he is dangerous, and he is a bad boy in all sense of the word, and obviously super sexy. And basically he's just everything. He's everything. He's everything you could want in a fictional boyfriend, because he's incredibly protective of Charlie and all of her people who are closest to her, sometimes to a fault. I will say sometimes he's overprotective and doesn't let her live her own life, but to be fair, Charlie often makes very bad decisions that get her incredibly hurt, and they're really, really stupid decisions. So if I were him, I would probably feel the same way. But he just cares for her so well, and he treats her so well, both emotionally and physically too. I just have nothing bad to say about him. I find him incredibly interesting and appealing. And last but not least, we have Darcy. Fitzwilliam Darcy, both the incarnation from Jane Austen's Pride and Prejudice, the original, and the Lizzie Bennet Diaries, the web series on YouTube. I like both of them. I think that Darcy is a, like, absolute douchebag in the beginning, but the way that he eventually gets past his first impressions of Elizabeth and is completely tongue-tied by her, I find incredibly charming. And also in the web series, the Lizzie Bennet Diaries, he is just... he's just great. he is really stuck up in the beginning, but a lot of that I think has to do with Lizzie's impression of him that she tells us about, so it's incredibly biased. Like, once you meet him, I feel like as soon as you see him on screen, you really can't help but swoon over him. And not only, I think, is it influenced by the fact that Darcy has been like a literary crush for a long time for a lot of people. I think that influences it. Also, just the fact that he's good, you know, looking. He's nice to look at. And he also clearly cares about Lizzie. Like, you can see it on the screen. You can see him looking at her in this completely devoted way and wishing that she would take more notice of him, and it just, like, it makes my heart swell and feel many, many things. And I feel like it's a very good interpretation of how Darcy in the book felt, and so that's why both of them are on here, because one couldn't have existed without the other. So yeah, they're both on here for me. And that's it. Those are my favorite male characters, aka my book boyfriends. Let me know what you guys think of the guys that I picked. Let me know who your guys' favorite male characters are, and subscribe if you want to see more videos. Thanks for watching. Happy reading.